Okay, so since I sprained my Achilles tendon, I'm going to hobble over here, make a video. Whew, damn. There's nothing like being in excruciating pain in the morning. Here is the nice, insanely expensive Zeiss 135mm f2 APO sonar, incredibly sharp. Is a manual focus lens. Now this is also a chipped lens, means it has CPU contact, and ZF2. This is a ZF2 lens for the Nikon. It is in a Nikon mount. Now here's the real question. Since this is a Nikon mount lens and it is chipped for Nikon, which is this more useful on? The Nikon or the Fujifilm? This is something a lot of people don't realize, and now, in crop mode, this is a field of view of 200 millimeters. At f2, that's pretty impressive. So this is not only a fast lens, but it's also incredibly sharp. It renders really well. It's not cheap lens, so, and this is obnoxiously big on the Fuji, but it's an obnoxiously big and heavy lens. So, which lens is this best on? Like Nikon D500, D810 is a full frame lens, obviously. So you're certainly throwing away a percentage of your money by sticking this in a crop sensor camera, but this lens is more useful on the Fuji. I slap on a Metabones adapter. You could use one of the cheap adapters. I know most people don't want to drop $100 for a Metabones adapter. However, they are made really well. They're worth $100 actually. But this lens is more useful in a Fujifilm. You have focus peaking. It's exquisite on the Fujifilm. I'm really good at manually focusing lenses. Now this is a full frame lens. You could argue, well, this is a full frame lens. You're chopping off that, and you'd be right about that. So you're paying a lot of money for a full frame lens, and then cropping off that huge circular projection from this lens on any crop sensor camera, whether it be a Nikon D500 or the Fujifilm X-T2 or X Pro 2. But this lens is more useful, especially with a really shallow depth of field. Focus peaking is incredible. It's a wonderful tool. I didn't know it until recently after getting the Sony A9 for testing. I thought, of all things, actually, and I'm not attacking Sony here, but it's true, and it's palpably the case, that I thought Sony's focus peaking would be either the same as Fuji's, or maybe even a hair better. I was actually surprised that not only is it not as good, it's worse than Fuji's focus peaking, but that's a point for another video. Not my opinion, it's a fact. With Fuji, you can actually tell when you're about to hit your mark and then stop. With Sony, it's you can, when you're actually focusing it, you go, oh, I went too far, and when you just, oh, I went too far. So it's not as good for focus peaking. That's a wonderful fact I learned. I'm glad I borrowed the A9. I thought for sure Sony would be as good, if not even better than Fujifilm on peaking, but it's not. So something you really need to consider, it's like, well, these lenses aren't made for Fuji mount. Zeiss lenses, I don't care if it's a Metabones or one of the cheap $20 adapters made in China. However, those are not coated as well. And if you're shooting into the sun, then you're going to have a flare issue because the interior coating is not as good. But is it really an issue? You're talking about $100 versus $20. And the answer to that is no. It's not an issue. But the point of this video is to state that a lot of people don't consider these lenses for use with their Fujifilm, and they actually should. It don't matter if you find one cheap used. I mean, does it really matter? You should be consistent with your mounts. You know, you can get a Canon to Fujifilm adapter or a Nikon to Fujifilm adapter. I don't actually like the look of the Canon mount lenses by Zeiss. I would get the Nikon mount lenses. The Nikon lenses also have a much better resale value because people that buy Zeiss lenses are more often than not Nikon users. And there's a reason for that too, is that since these lenses are manual focus, everybody, including the Canon lovers, will tell you that Canon is nowhere near as good for manually focusing lenses as Nikon is. They're just not. It's the indication you have, since there's no peaking, the indication you get for what's in focus is not as good on Canon as it is on Nikon, and that's why people that use manual focus lenses are more apt to be Nikon users by a wide margin, more so than Canon users. So There's your little tip of the day. You should consider, it doesn't have to be this expensive lens, but you should consider, you know, that some of these lenses are not made for Fuji mount. There's no issue getting an adapter and using them on the Fuji. And in the case of this expensive lens, it's better on the Fuji than it is on the Nikon. There you go. Thanks for watching. Catch you later. Bye. Oh, yeah, my foot's killing me.